Hello everyone, this is Eve, and I'm coming to you with Chains and Eyeless Jack X Reader. We're going to be starting off with Chapter 38, Jack's POV. Jack, do I really need this? Wyan sighed as she drummed her fingers along the dashboard, her eyes covered by a black blindfold. Jack just chuckled, removing one hand from the steering wheel to pat her head. I don't want you figuring out how to go through the woods, do I? He noted, and she swatted his hand away with a slight frown. I thought we established I have nowhere else to go. I don't really need this. Yes, but it gives me a sense of comfort. Though, honestly, that was a lie. A day had passed since the truth had finally been explained, and the pair were returning home to the cabin, or so he claimed. The real reason he had her wearing a blindfold was so she wouldn't realize the operating room was in the cabin. The door was hidden on the wall with the bathroom. Skillfully crafted and disguised, knowing it was there would only bring bad memories. Though, so he'd elected to pretend the room was elsewhere and drive around the woods for a while. Of course, Wyan wasn't too interested in this plan. You know, the fun part about riding in a car is watching scenery pass, right? She sighed, leaning against the window. Blind people ride in cars too, and they don't complain. This remark earned a pout, making him smirk. But fine, we're pretty close now anyway. You can take it off now. Finally, she grumbled, reaching up behind her head to untie the knot and let it slide down as she turned her head to the window. Trees rolled by the window as they drove over the dirt path, giving a pretty nice view. Birdsong could be faintly heard, even with the windows rolled up, but she immediately rolled hers down to feel the fresh air. Jack glanced at her for a moment, watching as strands of her brown hair waved in front of her face in the light breeze. Enjoying the ride? He asked, facing forward once more. She nodded, still staring out the window. I haven't felt fresh air in so long, she murmured. I'm always in that stuffy bedroom, and I wish I could feel the air more. It's not stuffy now, he muttered under his breath. She shot him a questioning glance, but his navy blue mask provided a perfect poker face, hiding his smirk. Reader's POV. Just as Jack said, my room wasn't stuffy anymore. Plenty of fresh air could get in through the broken window. I stared at the window in shock, all of the glass missing. Only a mesh screen served to keep out the elements, but that wasn't saying much since I was pretty sure a light punch could break it. As I stood there, Jack leaned against the door frame behind me, his arms folded and undoubtedly smirking under his mask. See, not so stuffy anymore, is it? Jack, what happened to the window? I asked, my voice reflecting my stun. I broke it, remember? I can't exactly go into town and buy another one. I used the screen from my own bedroom, though, so no bugs will get in. His tone casual, but I spun around to face him, my eyes flashing. No bugs. That's supposed to make it better? In my defense, the door was barricaded and you were screaming, and I thought your appendix had ruptured or something. The window was kind of the most viable option. I guess he had a point there. I sighed, turning back the window, shaking my head. Well, I wanted more fresh air. Looks like I got my wish, just not in the way I wanted. What if it storms? I groaned insolently. I'll be soaked. If you want, you can sleep in my room instead. I shot him a startled glance, my jaw dropping. What? I yelped, and he shrugged. Well, my window's intact, and my bed's more comfortable anyway, and better for your recovery. Again, totally casual, nonchalant, as if sleeping in his bed wasn't weird or special at all. My face tinted red as I stared at him, and he tilted his head. Something wrong? That's nice, but, I stammered endlessly, while he just stared at me silently. This stupid mask, I wish I could see his face and figure out what he was thinking. Shaking my head, I took a deep breath and started over. I'll just sleep on the couch if it storms, or something. The couch is lumpy, I'll take it. Besides, I come and go at night all the time, and I'd wake you up whenever I came home. This guy just didn't give up, did he? I sighed and shook my head, deciding it just wasn't worth arguing. Fine, but only when it storms. He nodded, seemingly satisfied with the arrangement. Anyways, moving on, you'll need to take it easy for a while. Recovering from appendicitis takes a couple weeks, and you need to drink more liquids and also eat. You've only had 2 bowls of soup in the past 3 days. That reminds me, I commented, sitting on the bed. They didn't taste like barf. How did you do that? He looked at me for a moment before averting his gaze, sighing softly. I kind of called in a favor and had a pal test it, he muttered, making me look at him in surprise. As far as I knew, his friends were mostly killers and monsters, but from what little I'd heard, they didn't exactly share Jack's taste. As I reflected this, he sheepishly added, it kinda took a few tries to get it right. He vomited a couple of times. That poor soul, I murmured, shaking my head. We're not on speaking terms at the moment, he admitted, though this time I could hear the smirk in his voice. Though I think we're still on for a joint hunt Tuesday. That idiot wouldn't miss a killing opportunity even if he vomited. As he chuckled, I'm pretty sure my face turned a little pale. Talking about killing so casually was still pretty uncomfortable to me. As such, I decided to let the subject drop. Speaking of favors, I said, changing the subject, any chance you can call in another one and get me a new window? He glanced away sheepishly, his shoulders slumping a bit. Not exactly sure I know anyone who could, he muttered, and then turned back to me. But if you miss the window that much, we could have a funeral. A funeral, I repeated incredulously, raising an eyebrow, and he nodded. Yeah, we can get a bouquet of your favorite flowers, bury the glass remains under a tree out in the forest, make a cross, grave marker, and everything. It'll have the view it always wanted. He chuckled at the awful joke while I just pressed a hand to my forehead and rolled my eyes, though I was smiling. You're an idiot, I chuckled softly, and I could imagine him grinning under his mask, his gray lips parted to show his razor-sharp teeth. Almost a shame I couldn't actually see it. Anyways, get some rest, he said, changing the subject. You're still recovering, and I'll make you some more soup. As he turned to leave, a smirk crossed my face. Now that I knew for a fact he would never try to kill me, I felt a bit more confident in dealing with him. You know, most people get suckers after going to the doctor, I commented. I could go for a bubblegum one, or maybe even some kisses? Honestly, any sugar would do. I have a major craving for it. And Jack paused, slowly turning his head to face me once more. Yeah, well, you're still on a liquid diet until tomorrow at the earliest. Glancing back at me, he added dryly, but of course, I might make a little exception if you tell me the password. My smirk vanished instantly, a chill running down my spine. Recovering from the shock, I slowly shook my head. No, that's okay, I muttered, managing a feeble smile. That's what I thought. Now lie down and get some rest. I'll be back in 10 with soup. With that, he turned and departed, leaving me to sit on the edge of the bed with a frown. With everything that had happened, I'd completely forgotten the starting point of this whole mess, Buddy's password. Chills ran down my back as I recalled the seemingly endless photos of Jack and the video of the torture. As I sat there thinking it over, I made a decision. I would die before I let Jack see what was on Buddy's account. Chapter 38.5. Another night, another victim. Jeff the killer felt immensely satisfied with himself for yet another successful night. He targeted a single bitch and killed her in one fell swoop. He chuckled to himself as he pressed his body against a tree, peering out as he watched police cruisers race down the street. Good night, a voice asked beside him. Yeah, I managed to kill... He suddenly stopped and whirled around, knife at the ready, but found his arms quickly blocked and raised above his head. Inches from his face was a blue mask, black tears painted, dripping from the eye holes. Bad reaction time, his assailant commented, and Jeff's scowl faded as he recognized the man. Eesh, he said, his perpetual grin widening as he gave an actual smile. Long time no see, where you been? It's a long story, Jack replied, releasing Jeff's wrists and stepping back. I'm here because I need a favor. Aw, it's never pleasure visits for you, is it? You know what they say, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Jeff chuckled at his little joke, while Jack just sighed and wished he had eyes so he could roll them. Yeah, but you owe me for taking care of down there. Jack pointed towards the crotch of Jeff's pants, and the killer's paper white cheeks reddened. I thought you promised to never talk about that, he hissed. And I'm not, Jack said, raising his hands in mock surrender, but you still owe me. Jeff glowered at him and sighed. Fine, who do I need to kill? No killing. Jeff looked at him in surprise. No killing? Then what the fuck do you want me to do? I want you to be my taste tester. The simple statement earned an incredulous stare and a tilt of the head. What? An hour later, found the killers in the kitchen of Jeff's hideout. Jeff sitting at the table. Still don't see why you're making regular food, Jeff commented. Not that he was complaining, free meals were always welcome. Doesn't matter, not any of your business. Jack set a bowl of steaming soup on the table in front of the smiling killer. Steam rose directly into his face, making him cover his eyes. Dude, you made it way too hot. You haven't even tried it yet. See those bubbles? Jeff pointed to the surface of the broth. That's because you boiled it. You don't boil soup. It'll take forever to cool down, and I'm pretty sure you overdid it if it's still bubbling up like that. Oh, Jack sighed while Jeff chuckled. Cheer up, Ege. Just try again. Jack nodded and headed back to the kitchen, while Jeff tipped his chair back. It might take a while, but hey, a free meal was nothing to complain about. Jack's second attempt was, however. The metal spoon clattered against the table as Jeff sprung up from the chair, racing to the sink to cough the broth into it. Yellow liquid dribbled down his chin from the cuts in his cheeks as he wiped his mouth, coughing and gagging the whole time. Jack watched silently, just tilting his head. No good? What the fuck was up with that broth? Jeff coughed. That stuff's rank. What's the sell-by date? Jack went to the counter to pick up the cardboard carton containing the broth he'd used, turning it over. June 15th, 2009. Jeff gawked at him in disbelief while Jack tilted his head. Is that bad? Jack, go get fresh broth at least. Attempt number 3 wasn't much better than attempt number 2. Jeff gagged and spit the chicken chunks back into the bowl, making a little splash. Blackened chunks of meat bobbed up to the top of the broth, while Jeff just stared at it in disbelief, staining his white sleeve further as he wiped his mouth once again. No good? Jack asked. How the fuck did you burn chicken in a bowl of soup? Jeff didn't know whether to be awed or disgusted by this. However, as the night proceeded, he definitely leaned towards disgust. Attempt number 4 involved the surface of the soup being covered in a strange, crusty black layer. Number 5 had the noodles burnt. Number 6 was halfway decent, but somehow Jack forgot the noodles in the chicken in it. The 7th attempt had the noodles in the chicken, but also a few extra burnt flies in it. Yes, Jack had somehow included burnt insects in his 7th attempt. That was the one that made Jeff vomit. Currently, the killer was bent over the white porcelain toilet bowl, rich,ing the contents of his latest meal into the water. Jack stood in the doorway, watching him vomit in case anything happened. Sorry, I missed the flies, he muttered. There was a fucking cobweb, Jeff choked, vomiting more chunks into the bowl. You fucking cooked a you cooked a spider's nest in there. I'm lucky there weren't any fucking spider eggs. He coughed more and more while Jack sighed. I promise I'll make sure it doesn't happen next time. Jeff wiped his mouth and shot Jack a glare. Yeah, it won't, because there's not going to be a next time. I'm through. He turned back to the toilet to vomit while Jack just stared at him in shock. Behind his mask, his expression hardened and grew dark. Vomit. Vomit was the only thing Jeff could taste. His unblinking eyes were glazed over, staring at his lap numbly. His wrists were bound to the arms of the chair with duct tape, his legs and torso bound to the chair as well, but he had long since given up trying to escape. His strength had faded by bowl number 9, and by bowl 12 so had his consciousness. Jack gave his cheeks a few light smacks, making him groan and weakly raise his head. Time for try number 13, Jack announced, making Jeff groan and hang his head. Why are you doing this? He rasped it out weakly. I told you, I need to learn to make soup. Why do you hate me? What? I don't hate you. I just need to learn to make soup. I'm sorry for vomiting on your scalpel that one time. You did what? And for peeing in that bottle of bourbon you stole. You did what? And for dyeing that band shirt you like pink. That was you? Please, just stop. Jeff wheezed and hung his head while Jack stared at him in shock. Fuck you. I should make it bad on purpose. Jack growled and Jeff coughed. No, please. Have mercy. Jack shook his head as he headed for the kitchen. Nope, I'm going bad. I'm going to find a spider nest with eggs to throw in the pot. Jeff groaned at the thought and coughed. At least use canned soup. At this point, Jack froze, slowly turning his head to glance at the weakened killer over his shoulder. Canned soup? Jeff coughed and nodded. Yeah, it's harder to ruin. Soup comes in cans? At these words, Jeff stopped coughing, snapping his head up to stare at the cannibal in shock. Yeah, you know, Campbell's. And fuck, I don't know any other brands, but yeah, it comes in cans. Jack didn't respond right away, and Jeff tilted his head. You do know that there's cans of soup, right? You don't have to make it from scratch. Yes. If Jeff's hands were free, he would have face-palmed. And thus Jack switched from homemade soup to canned soup. However, his first attempt still managed to make Jeff hurl once more. Unfortunately, it seemed now that Jeff would need a new hoodie after tonight's events. I'm not gonna lie, that was kind of funny. I was trying not to laugh, and I'm so sorry for laughing. I was like, I could just imagine EJ having Jeff tied to a chair, torturing him with all this soup. And I'm just like, well, that's the end of those 2 chapters. I mean, technically it was a half a chapter, but the chapter after this one, chapter 39. But let me know what you guys think. I think I tweaked the mic enough to where it doesn't sound like I'm in an echoey room, maybe. I'm gonna listen through it and post it, but let me know what you guys think. And you guys have a lovely day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye!